Welcome back to this week's episode of Hormones, Metabolism, and You. I'm your host, Dr. Cassie Smith. I'm a board-certified endocrinologist who's now a functional medicine doctor based out of Oklahoma City. My passion has become gut health recently. I have found that it is almost impossible to treat anyone's illness, whether it be thyroid, hormone, whatever you're struggling with, weight, fatigue, brain fog, unless you truly look at someone's gut. I have had phenomenal results over the last year in a gut health program that myself and my health coach, Sarah, have created. So today I wanted to do something a little bit different on this podcast. I do a gut health webinar live once a month where I talk about all the ways that your gut affects simple symptoms that you may be getting gaslit from other providers. So if you are somebody who's struggling with brain fog, fatigue, weight gain, just don't feel like yourself, can't make muscle, are having problems sleeping, all of these things can actually tie back to your gut. So today I'm going to have my health coach, Sarah, on the podcast with me. Sarah and I are going to chat just in general about how she came to Modern Endocrine, what we do, all of the benefits that we see in treating people's gut, and just kind of let you guys in on a little bit about like what is gut health, what do we do that's different at Modern Endocrine with your gut health. Why do I think that Sarah is such an asset to our team as a health coach? Because when you hear the word health coach, you think of lots of different things, but Sarah goes above and beyond what you would think of as a typical health coach. So she will meet you where you are. She's going to help you figure out how to start moving forward in your health journey, whether that means we're talking about exercise, nutrition. She does a lot of mindfulness and stress work. And so I just wanted you guys to hear her perspective as to like, what is Modern Endocrine? What does she do there? Why does she enjoy it? What does she see from patients that see her? What sort of success stories? And so we just kind of go back and forth, and we end up talking about our own health journeys and what we appreciate about each other, because we try to be very positive at Modern Endocrine as well. And I think it's very important for healing, which we talk about, to be in an environment where you feel aligned and also just where you feel appreciated. So I wanted to bring her on so that you guys know how much I do appreciate her and just can see some of the awesome things that we do with gut health at Modern Endocrine. And where we're going with this is so exciting. My book is coming out in the next month or so, and that is just going to be a launching pad for courses for patients and providers. And again, my goal is literally to make gut health on the forefront of everyone's mind, because until you figure out what's wrong with your gut, you will not get better as a patient, and providers need to know this too. If we want to change the trajectory of healthcare, then we've got to start with the gut. So I'm so excited for you to listen to this week's episode. Welcome back to this week's episode of Hormones, Metabolism, and You. I'm your host, Dr. Cassie Smith. I have my health coach, Sarah, with me today. So I'm super excited to do this podcast. Her and I are going to kind of talk today about, well, first of all, how Sarah came into the practice and the amazing things that we're doing with gut health. But I wanted to bring her on too to give you like a perspective of somebody else in the practice. Like, what is Modern Endocrine? What do we do? Why does she love her job? She says she loves her job. I'm not paying her to say that, and just to give you guys some perspective as a patient, what is it like to be a patient with gut health issues? So Sarah can kind of tell you some of her personal story too, but it is very frustrating when you are a patient and you've been seeing tons of different doctors, spend a ton of money, and don't get anywhere. And so Sarah and I both can relate to that. And so at Modern Endocrine, we really try to make sure when you come, no matter how many people you've seen, we try to get to the root cause of what's going on and make you better. And so we just wanted to talk today about that process, what that looks like, kind of what we do, and then just help you guys get to know Sarah a little bit more. So I'm super excited to do this episode. I think it's going to be really fun. Yeah. So Sarah, tell everyone, I guess, obviously your name is Sarah. What do you do at Modern Endocrine? And maybe describe, so first of all, what do you do at Modern Endocrine? And then describe to people, what is Modern Endocrine? Like if you had just met them and they say, where do you work and what do you do there? Like, how would you describe Modern Endocrine?
Well, first of all, yes, my name is Sarah, and I'm the health coach here at Modern Endocrine. And essentially what I do is I come alongside Cassie and support all of our patients that come to us with all of the gut-related issues that they might be experiencing. And so essentially what that process looks like is they might come in to have an initial consult with her. Maybe they have their labs done and we can see that they might need some support with some of their gut-related related stuff. They'll come in, they'll do a GI map, and then she and I will sit down together and we will kind of go over the test results together. We'll come up with a plan, and then I'm really there to kind of help with facilitating the aspects of the plan that we need to do to help our patients to get better. But whenever I am talking to people about what it is that I do, it's funny because I hear myself saying often that if people feel stuck in their health journey, that we literally do everything. And I tell people that, if you feel like you are stuck, we have so many options for what we can do to help people. And I have worked for a lot of different providers in the past, and I think that it is very unique that we have so many different modalities that we can use to help support people, whether it's with their gut or with their hormones or with the peptides, the ozone, things like that. And so that is how I would typically describe what I do, and also a little bit about what kind of a response I give people when they ask about who I work for.
Yeah, so I love that. If you're stuck in your health journey, we really take it upon ourselves to try and help with that. And that's so interesting because I actually need to make a video right now. My social media team is really mad at me. They want me to make a video for the website, and they want me to just talk about like what is modern endocrine, And so I know exactly what it is. Like I just haven't had time to make the video, but I feel like that we try to make this place where you can come to no matter where you are in your health journey, whether it's just beginning, whether you've seen a million doctors, like it doesn't matter. I tried to make this sacred place where you can come, be heard, be validated, and then be helped. And I think what really helped me do it was the fact that I spent 15 years really sick and nobody listened to me, even as a doctor. And so I think what I tried to cultivate at Modern Endocrine is like, where's the place I wish I would have had when I was 20 years old and really sick that I could have gone to and just got straightforward root cause answers, as opposed to being shuffled around to 37 different doctors and still never knowing what was going on. So that's kind of what I see Modern Endocrine as. And just, a really cool place with a lot of people who are very interested in making your health and your wellness their top priority.
Mm-hmm. I can agree with that because, part of this too for me is I have a very similar health journey as you. And it is really frustrating if you're someone who has kind of gone through the stages of that healing process to feel like you've kind of been passed around from doctor to doctor, and to finally come to a place where you feel like you can get all of your answers in one place. I get that feedback all the time from patients where they are just so grateful that we take a full body perspective whenever we're looking at them, and it gives them the peace of mind and hope really that a lot of them have been searching for. And that just to me is one of the most fulfilling aspects of what we do, the fact that we can actually meet patients where they are and give that to them. I love that because I know that was something for me that personally I felt like I was looking for a really, really long time. So, and I eventually did get better. I found that, with each practitioner that I worked with over the, 2 or 3 years that I was really investing in my health and trying to get better, it was like I would work with a provider for a period of time and they might help me with one thing that kind of unlocked the key to the next thing that I needed to get to, which helped me find another specialist and provider to unlock that and then get to the next. And so eventually I did get there, but yeah, it is really helpful just to be able to come to one place and know that you can get all of the support that you need from, from the medical side, but then also, from the lifestyle, the behavioral, the nutritional side of things too, because I think we all know that we have to treat things holistically. It's usually never just one aspect of something that we have to look at. And that's really why I love what I get to do, because we get the opportunity to explore that in a lot of the follow-ups that we have with our patients, which is pretty wild because a lot of times people will come in, especially with the gut stuff, thinking that we're going to fix one problem only for us to unturn another rock. It might even be something like with stress or emotionally something that's kind of going on, or how they're perceiving a lot of what's going on in their life, and getting the opportunity to kind of coach people through that behavioral and almost like the mindset aspect of it. That's one of the things that I really love. I really value building relationships with people, and also like creating that safe space where people can be seen, they can be heard, they can be validated. And I've been doing this a really long time, and it's like a superpower. It really is. Like I find a lot of times once people give themselves or they feel like they have that permission to kind of open up and share, I think that's really where the breeding ground for change truly begins. So I love that we, by being able to spend more time with our patients, we get the opportunity to create that environment for them.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we really focus on too is education. So I think it's really disheartening that we have this broken system right now that we think is going to improve without educating people. So, like, it is fascinating how many people live in the United States don't even know what is fiber. Like, what's fiber? They're like, what is that? Like, vegetables? Like, what? And so it's just like educating people not only on everything that's wrong with them, like, okay, instead of just giving them diagnoses and writing a prescription, let's talk about what caused these diagnoses. What is the root cause of it? Let's get down to the very, like, what caused this. And then let's talk about how you actually heal your body and fix it, as opposed to just writing a prescription, right? And so I think that's one of the things I really, really wanted when I got sick too. And it's like nobody gives you that. And so that's one of the things I think that is very special about us, is like, when I look at a person, and or when any provider at Modern Endocrine looks at a person, because every provider there works with me. And so when Sarah was talking about, when you are working with people, we're not just looking at like, oh, you have leaky gut and you have dysbiosis and we're looking at like, okay, you're very inflamed. You also have PCOS and we've got insulin resistance and we have all these other issues with your gut. And so, like you said, we're really trying to we're trying to turn over every single rock, every problem they have. Oh, they're also not absorbing their food there, so that we can literally start at ground zero, rock bottom, and start rebuilding. Because if we just give you symptomatic treatment and throw little things at you to band-aid issues, then what happens is you don't get better. Like, you will continue to come and see us and not be well for a really long time. And that is not what we want. And so what I want from patients is for you to get better and to come back once a year and we check in and make sure nothing crazy has changed with your blood work, and you go live your life and be as productive as you can be. And like, to your point, the education is so important with that, because just slapping people with diagnoses and saying, take this, doesn't help them figure out how to, one, actually heal and get better, but two, stay out of doctors' offices, right? And so I think the other thing Modern Endocrine is really good at is not only educating people, but my goal for you is to stay out of doctors' offices, right? Like, if you have an emergency and you need to see an emergency doctor, great. But our traditional healthcare system is not keeping you well, like, at all. And that's what we're really trying to do. And also with the education. And it's nice to have you, Sarah, because you get to spend all these time with people and you get to talk to them about their, emotional issues or their, scarcity issues or whatever issues they have going on. I know that you love stress too. Like, she loves people that are stressed. Like, the more stressed you are, the more Sarah loves you, because she was going to teach you how that affects your gut and how to make that better. But it's true, because when you help these people with simple things like setting down and chewing your food 15 times, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so much better. But in traditional medicine, nobody talks to you about how many times you chew your food. What are you doing when you eat your food? What do you eat in general? How do you sleep? What does your poop look like? Like, nobody talks about any of this. And it's crazy to think you're going to make people better if you don't talk about it.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And I think, like, to your point, like, all of the little things add up. I think what traditional medicine does is it kind of trains people to believe that I have to find the one thing that's going to fix this big problem, when in reality, it's usually a combination of making all of these little changes over time that create the results that you want in the long term. But I love what you said about empowering people through education. That is something that, like, a philosophy that I live by. And even when we're doing a GI map or I'm doing a review with someone, that is actually one of the things that I tell them is, hey, like, we're going to talk about the plan that Dr. Smith put together for you, but also part of what we're going to talk about when we have this conversation is how we got here. Because if we don't walk ourselves backwards of what kind of drove us to get here to begin with, there's a good chance that a lot of this stuff can actually recur and come back. And that's where, again, just the benefit of being able to talk about, the lifestyle and the habits, the behavioral stuff with our patients as we kind of walk them through the treatment plan that we put together. That's really where we can see a lot of the magic happen with our patients, which is so fulfilling. It is so, so fulfilling to, especially once we get to, halfway, 75% of the way through, when patients really start to feel a lot better and then start to come off of a lot of the things. I always love that. Like, when patients were, maybe I'm doing their second or their third follow-up with them, and they're like, I had a lab review with my provider and they said that I could come down on my thyroid medications. Like, to start to see all the things come together and get to witness them kind of have those light bulb moments is really, really exciting. It's really cool.
Yeah, so that was going to be my question to you, is like, Tell people some of the cool things that you've seen as far as like how do we help people? Like what are some examples? So we're recording this on a Friday, so you I'm sure have a whole head full of things this week. But like what are some of the really cool, powerful things that you see that really like, when you think about gut health, a lot of people are like, well, first of all, what is gut health? Which is really sad. And my mission is to change that. And I think I'm going to. Like, I'm making this book. We're going to make a program and a course. Like, people are going to understand what gut health is if it's the last thing I do on this earth. But what are some of the things that like you see that people are like, oh my gosh, I had no idea my gut was going to make this better. And then we fix their gut and they actually get better.
A big thing that I see with people is weight loss. Weight loss, especially with a lot of our women who are like type A, they're very goal oriented, very driven people. They're not sleeping typically. They're like very other focused or they're very career focused. So weight loss is a really big thing that I see with people, like benefits that we see when we start working on their gut, but also hormones too. And I've actually had people, some of them even say too that their sleep gets better. Like I had a patient this week who said that they're like, I never thought that like me working through this would impact my sleep the way that it has, but I used to never sleep before and now I'm sleeping so much better. And I think a lot of that just ties back into just managing some of the inflammation. Like a lot of these people, they have a lot of these overgrowths of bad bacteria in their gut, and they don't understand how systemically that can really start to impact the other things. It can impact your cortisol, it can impact your blood sugar, and that's where we see a lot of the things with the weight and the sleep and all of those other things. But I'd say those are some of the top things that I see, but also just like more generally, like the bloating, consistencies in their bowel movements, especially within the first 4 weeks of treatment. Those are usually like the first things that I see improve with a lot of our patients when they come to us. Like some people, they're like, I don't poop. I haven't pooped in like 10 days. Like that's a problem. We need to fix that. But then once we start really, kind of getting rid of some of the bad bacteria in their gut, focusing on adequate nutrition, making sure that they're getting enough fiber and the right types of fiber for them too. That's really when we kind of start to see those things come back online, and that can kind of tie into the weight loss thing too. Once we start to get those bowel movements regular and their inflammation starts to come down, and usually I think mentally people will start to feel better too at that point. They might notice like a difference in their physical energy, but I think mentally they feel that release, because when you're puffy and you're inflamed all the time and you're not using the bathroom consistently,
And
you
your
don't realize.
clothes are tight.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's like you're feeling like you're having to change your pant size in the same day because like you may have a flat stomach in the morning, and then as you go throughout the day, you just progressively your bloating gets worse. I mean, it really can be life changing for so many people. But I would say those are some of the biggest patterns that I see with the majority of patients that come in to work with us.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think, the mental aspect of it is really cool too. The weight loss, like everyone wants to lose weight and everyone wants more energy. But the mental, like what it does to people mentally, I think some of the coolest cases I see are the younger, well, it doesn't matter, but anyone who comes to me and has what I call refractory anxiety or depression. That means that you have significant anxiety and depression. You've seen multiple doctors, you've been put on several different types of medications for anxiety or depression, and it never helps and it makes it worse. I personally have a spot in my heart for you because I had debilitating anxiety right after I got COVID that would not go. Like, I thought I was going to have to quit practicing medicine. It was so bad. It was awful. Panic attacks are the worst thing. Like, I wouldn't wish a panic attack on my worst enemy. Like, they're awful and they're debilitating. And there are people who have them and have had them for years and take all these medications, and people are like, oh, sorry, have another medication. Well, the crappy thing about that is 70 to 80% of the time you can fix that by fixing somebody's gut, but nobody talks to these people about what are they eating, and so I think some of the most rewarding people for me are the people who come with anxiety, depression. We fix their gut and they're better. And they're just like, some of them are mad and they should be, but they're like, I lived with this for so long and like, it's better now. And it's like, well, yeah, because you had this chemistry that was out of balance in your stomach, which was part of my problem with my panic attacks too. Like, some of it was COVID, some of it was hormones, some of it was my gut, some of it was my Hashimoto's. Like, it was a train wreck in my body. But when you fix your gut, like, that starts to fix everything. So it rebalances your hormones, it helps your Graves, your Hashimoto's, it helps your anxiety. And so to me, those are really powerful things too, because there's sort of this stigma, I guess, with like anxiety and depression too, which there shouldn't be. Like mental health should be talked about so much more, but like just not being able to function or do the things that you want to do are so like, again, I know how debilitating it is. Literally like head between my legs, breathing into a brown bag in between seeing patients in my office before, like never want to go there again. And when I fixed my gut, it was like somebody just lifted this like weight off of me. And I was like, wow, this is amazing, you know? So I think some of those people are really fun to see too, right? And then your point, like I saw somebody today who just finished a program with you, I think last month, and she's losing weight now. She's like, this is so easy. Like, I'm so mad. I tried everything to lose weight and now she's lost 8 pounds. She's sleeping. She's like, I sleep so well. Like, I sleep amazing. I feel good. She was like in a great mood. She's like, I'm going on a date with my husband, just in this best mood. And she's like, it's all from my stomach. And in our defense, we told her this for a year and she kind of fought it. But then, we did everything we could with her hormones and her thyroid and everything. And just, you have
Eventually, they
to,
drink the Kool-Aid.
yeah,
They drink the Kool-Aid eventually.
you
Yeah.
have to fix the gut. Like you have to fix the gut. And I say this, like at some point, modern endocrine is going to get to the point where like you can't be a patient unless you do a gut study because I can't fix you unless I know what's going on in your gut. And if you say, oh, Dr. Smith, there's nothing wrong with my gut, there is a gut type. We call it the silent struggler. They think there's nothing wrong with their gut. They think they don't have symptoms. They do. Like
Yep.
we see it all the time. If you are in a doctor's office, unless it's just like, I want to be well, you have symptoms and they probably started in your gut, but nobody tells you this because we don't talk about it in med school and we don't talk about it enough in society because God forbid if we actually fixed you from the root. I mean, what would drug companies do? They might go out of business. Big hospitals might go out of business. For God's sakes, we wouldn't spend all this money on healthcare. That seems like a terrible issue, like, no, it's not. So it's frustrating that nobody goes to the root cause. I say this to you all the time. Like Hippocrates, 2,400 years ago, said, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." Like he talked about the gut 2,400 years ago, and then somehow we lost that between there and now. Like obviously, he was way smarter than we are. But you have to fix people's guts, right? And it's not just medicine, which is why you're so you're so like important for our program at Modern Endocrine. Like health coaches are so important for this because you're so good at you understand the stress component, you understand, the weight component, you understand the energy, like all of these things that the accountability part. I'm not great at some of that. Like I'm really good at like, oh, here's what's going on in your body, let's fix it. But you're really good at like meeting someone where they are and figuring out, okay, how do we start implementing these things, right? So I think this is why we make a really good team because you're like amazing at all of that.
I appreciate that. That makes me feel so good. Something that I was thinking about, or just as you were talking about the gut studies and some of the things that we see, I tell everybody that I come in contact with, like anybody can benefit from doing a GI map. Like, when people ask that question, like, well, should I do this or should I not do this? I am so passionate about everybody doing one. And I tell everybody, like, after all of my gut stuff that I went through, I do one every 2 to 3 years because the reality is that nobody's talking about the environment and how toxic our environment is becoming. And to your point, even with the mental health stuff, but I see this with even just younger people who are just getting sicker at a younger age just because of everything that we're exposed to. I think the development of technology has a lot to do with it. It's the low nutrient status of our food. It's the chemicals that are in a lot of the products that we're using. It's in the air that we're breathing. It's in the water that we're drinking. We can't get away from that. And I always tell patients when we're trying to work on optimizing their systems and their environment and their home and things like that, not to stress, but to just be mindful because it is everywhere, and I think that that's one of the things that we really try to do in the program is to, again, kind of educate patients on all the things that we can do to kind of take control of our environment. But doing a GI map, I think that everybody, I'm going to say everybody is at risk, but there's just so much that we are up against in our environment in this day and age that I think that it is a really good preventative tool just to, even when you're doing your labs, just to kind of make sure that you're cleaned up and, we can just keep everything regular in there.
Yeah, and stress too. So you talk about the toxic environment. I talk about this in my book. we do have a toxic environment because of all the things you said, but we also have a toxic environment because we've put ourselves in that toxic environment. We expect more and more and more, and we don't, we're always like, oh, we need to do more. I need to do more. I need to do more. And it's just like go, 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 go. And so that toxic, stressful environment is really hard on your gut too. And so I have this whole section in my book where I explain how stress affects your gut and then what that does to your hormones and then how that cycle just feeds and your brain is just constantly like stressed out. And so it is very important. And to your point, like I do think like if you want people to really be well, then you should do a gut, like insurance should be, you should have a gut study every year. Like every year you should have one, just like women get mammograms, just like we do colonoscopies. Like if you want to prevent somebody from getting sick, then look at their gut. I mean, it's so, so powerful. And I think so we've done hundreds of these, and with our program, we do the gut study, and then Sarah and I come up with this plan, and Sarah goes over it with you and spends an hour going over it with you, gives you all the, it's almost overwhelming how much information you get, and gives you this very well laid out, thoughtful plan. It usually takes about 3 months to fix your gut, although some people it takes longer. And we work through this with you. You touch base with Sarah every month. She coaches you, and we have an app that teaches you, and then this Facebook group. I mean, it's just, community is so powerful too. But when people walk through this towards the end and they look back, it's just so mind-blowing how far they've come. Some people that aren't even our patients, some people that have just done this for gut health stuff, right? And like the difference in how they feel is just, it's astronomical, right? It's just crazy.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason why when people ask me what I do, and I'm saying like and why I love what I do, I'm like, this is why I love what I do, because I have the opportunity, or I get the opportunity to have that impact on people every single day, and people are so grateful for it. And I think another thing too is like being able to empathize. I think that's something too that really sets us apart, like being able to empathize with some of these people who are going through a similar struggle that maybe we have. People can feel that whenever you have conversations with them. And I think that people really do value that support too as they're going through it. And it almost makes the changes that they make more meaningful because you were able to kind of hold their hand along the way. So, that's also something that's really exciting that, a lot of our patients get whenever they go through the process, as well as the support, because it can be really isolating, especially if you're somebody who has been struggling with a chronic health issue for a long time, or maybe you've been gaslit by all these doctors, or even if you're, your family or your spouse, if they have not walked in your shoes before, it's not their fault that they can't relate to maybe what you're going through. But I don't think that people talk about that enough. It's just like when you are struggling and you're in the thick of it and you're working so hard to try and get better, how isolating it can be. So really to be able to have that person or that team that really comes alongside you to support you as you go through it, and then you start getting better and you start making all this progress, like it is a pretty magical thing that we get to do here. So
yeah, that's so true. That's not talked about enough. We see a lot of women who are chronically ill, mostly women, and a lot of women with mold and things like that. And your spouse sometimes can be one of the rate limiting factors in how quickly you get better, 100%. So if you have a chronic illness and you have a spouse that's not supportive and is not willing to, get on your side and try to fix the things in the environment, get you out of the moldy house, support you, make sure you can eat healthy food, that's a big problem. And you're not going to get better because you're only going to be as good as the toxicities in your environment. And so that is a very good point. I see women all the time who are really sick from mold or from gut issues, and their husbands are like, well, you don't need to spend all this time and all this money and all this, and it's like, well, then they're never going to get better. And like, that's just toxic. And so if that's you, then you really got to take and my book talks about this too. Like I point blank say it in the book, like this is going to get me some hate, but like, if you are in a toxic relationship, you are not going to get better, like 100%. So the toxic relationship has to change. The spouse has to get on board, or you have to find a different partner, because it is so important. Like when you're sick, you have to have people in your corner. And it's true. I think that we try to do a good job of that at Modern Endocrine. We try to do that with our Facebook group. And it is true. I mean, if you want to share some of your health journey, you can, but like I tell patients this all the time, there's not really a diagnosis that we treat at Modern Endocrine that I probably haven't had. I've had every hormone issue you can imagine. I've had both sides of the thyroid spectrum. Lucky me. Jeez. I think God was just laughing at me on my journey to becoming what I was going to, so that I literally could be empathetic. I've been so hyperthyroid, I thought I was going to die. And I've been so hypothyroid, I thought I was going to die. And I've been everything in the middle. None of it's fun. And, you know, I've had gut issues, I've had PCOS, I've had insulin issues, I've had every vitamin deficiency you can imagine. Like, I've had it all. Other than like pituitary issues, I guess, but like my growth hormone's been low. I guess I haven't had adrenal insufficiency, thank God, or diabetes. So please don't give me that. But I mean, I can relate to these people. Like, it sucks. And so, and my husband can tell you that too. Like, yeah, she's a little cray. She's been cray, you know, but fixing things it's so powerful, right? And it is, empathy is something I think that we lost in medicine. I don't know why. I don't know where it went. Like, I went into medicine to help people, and part of that is empathy. I do see that a lot of providers now just don't have it, and I don't know if it's because they don't have the time. They just really aren't empathetic. Like, I don't know, but I feel like medicine should be one of the most empathetic things that you do. It can be emotionally draining as a provider. I mean, you know that, but that's like the whole point of it, right? So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Well, what I hear from, because I have several friends that work in healthcare as well, is they go into it because they are an empathetic person, but because the way the system is set up, they get burnt out. And there's a label for that. It's called compassion fatigue. And you get to a point where if you are somebody who is highly empathetic, you're highly sensitive, we actually have a gut type for this, the nervous navigator. If you are somebody who is super sensitive, you're highly empathetic, and you're in, and you're not able to kind of balance that side of the stress equation, there's so much going out, there's not enough coming back. I think that's where the lack of empathy comes from, is it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's like a protection mechanism, but if you don't have anything else to give, you are kind of in self-preservation mode at that point, where, and that's what's really upsetting is, our healthcare system, just the way that it's set up, it doesn't create an environment for that, right? Even with the nurse practitioner that we're in the process of teaching some of our gut health stuff to right now, she is so excited to be able to have some of these longer appointments as they start implementing more of the gut stuff in their clinic, because that's something that she's brought up as well. It's like, you just don't have the time to be able to really, sit with people and give people the care that they need or hear them. You're just kind of being shunted from one person to the next, to the next, to the next. And it's almost like the volume is so high, it can be a challenge to bring that into it. So, yeah.
Yeah, compassion fatigue. I like that. Maybe that's what we should call the name of our Teams group. So we have a Teams chat, you guys. Sarah did this. So this is one of the reasons I love Sarah too. I have had I would say pretty rough last year. Just some of it's my own fault, like writing a book, a lot of things that I should probably learn to say the word no. But I've had a pretty rough last year, and there are times when I'm like so tired and so just like, and then Sarah will pop in there with like, oh, I saw this person and they said this, and
That's our
you
wins
changed
channel.
their
Our
life.
wins
And we have
channel.
a wins chat, but that all the team, like everyone on our team can see. But Sarah pops in there all the time. It's like somehow she knows. She has this, like, even though she lives in North Carolina, South Carolina.
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Even though she lives in South Carolina and I never get to see her, somehow she has this like radar on me or something. And right when I'm like about at my wits' end and like compassion fatigue, she's throwing all these things in our win chat about all these people that have done all these amazing things. And I'm like, okay, damn it, I'm going to go home and keep working on what I was working on. Like, she has this amazing ability to like keep our team moving in the direction that we do for the reasons that we do it. And so, and that's one of the things, like you said, not being able to spend enough time with people. That's one of the reasons I really wanted to write this book, which I'm almost done with. And I really want to get this course made for people, because I really want people to be able to spend the time that they need learning things. And I do think that when you provide people with education, that helps a ton. And then when people are somewhat educated and come to you, the time that they spend with you can be more valuable. And so I know you and I have talked about this, but we're working on some AI stuff at Modern Endocrine too, where it's going to maybe be like, pick Dr. Cassie's brain and Sarah's brain and the team's brain about gut health stuff, so that when you have these questions, you can just ask it. Like, what, and so that way I want you to be able to spend time with us and it be valuable time and personable, but I also want you to be able to have something to fall back onto and get reliable answers, not from TikTok or Instagram, or Google when you're not with us too. So there's so many cool things, which is why I'm always tired, because I'm like, this is so cool. I have to do this for people. But the compassion fatigue it's funny because I swear to God, every time I'm like, I'm at my wit's end, the wins chat starts blowing up, and it's just like such amazing timing. So it's pretty
Well, and
cool.
it's like you get them all in one day is what it feels like. And that's what I've learned about being in healthcare is like, you get all, it seems like you get all of the things at once. But yeah, like when they come in, when all the positive things come in, I really try and share them because I know that, not every day is always a good day in healthcare. And so, depending on like the patients that you see and even where they're at and their individual health journey. So it is always nice to be able to, have that positive reinforcement. So I try to I feel sometimes I know that I'm a part of the team, but sometimes I feel like I'm on my own little island. And so it's nice to be able to, keep everybody plugged in with some of the things that I'm seeing too, because I know that, every little bit helps and goes a long way.
So I'm just going to put this out there. Sarah lives in South Carolina. She's been invited to move to Oklahoma more than once. So that her being on her own island is her issue. Now, in her defense, she says that Oklahoma weather sucks, and it does. So she likes to go outside. But she has been invited to move to Oklahoma on several occasions. And we would
I'm
love
also
it.
not a fan of tornadoes. I'm not a fan of tornadoes, but
No. We're real nice here. Okay. So the niceness is out of this world here. Just putting that out there. You said something that I wanted to talk about too, and now I don't remember what it was. Oh, you said that not every day in healthcare is a good day. And so for providers listening to this, patients too, but more for providers, we were kind of talking to Elena about this yesterday, but like, it's so true. Healthcare, you're not going to have a good day. So if you're somebody who needs to have a good day every day, do not go into healthcare. But the thing about healthcare, and it took me a long time to figure this out, it took me at least 5 years. I used to take everything personally, everything. It would ruin my day. I would want to cry, like if a patient was upset. Here's the thing about healthcare, and especially hormonal women. You're going to have bad days, right? I have bad days. You've had bad days. You cannot take that personally. You have to just understand that the person in front of you is ill. They don't feel well, and they came to you for a solution. And a lot of times when they come to you, they've been to 20 other people and they've been gaslit, or and so you don't take that personally. You empathize with them, you listen to them, you don't internalize it, you let it roll off of you, and then you figure out how you can make them better. And I've done that hundreds of times, if not thousands by this point. I've let people scream at me. I've let people cuss at me, probably let people do more than they should, but I always give them one out. And then we talk about it, we get a plan, and then I usually get some sort of apology, which I don't always need. But like, it's in healthcare, you just have to realize that like people come to you at their worst. You can't take it personally, and then you just do your job, which is to make them feel better. And 9 times out of 10, it's all going to work out. But you have to not internalize it. So that's like the big thing with healthcare. If you do, then you get really, really burnt out and really, really just depleted, right?
yeah. I know that I needed to hear that today. And Elaine and I were talking about that yesterday too. It's like, man, she always knows, like what you just said about the wins chat. I feel like anytime I need to hear something, we have like a conversation and you tell me like you don't even know what I might be going through with what I'm dealing with
Yep.
patients. And you say something and I'm like, man, like I really needed to hear that today. I needed to hear that today. Because I'll be honest, sometimes I do still struggle with that, but it's just because when you care so much, it's hard to not internalize it, right? Because you're like, I care so much about making this person feel better. You want to take responsibility to help, bring that person to the other side of what they're going through.
Yeah,
So,
I totally get that. I care way too much about people. Every single patient I have, I care a ton about. If I can't figure out an answer for them, I literally wake up in the middle of the night thinking about it. Like my husband says that all the time. You care about other people way more than you care about me. It might be true. Because if you are sick, I know what it's like to be sick, and I don't want you, like it kills me. I don't want you to be sick. I don't want you to feel bad. So I get that too, but I will tell you that if you let everything bother you like that, then you're not going to be good for the next people. So you just kind of got to let it roll off of you. Know they've had a bad day, and then that your job is to make them better or to find answers to help them, And it is hard to do. Sometimes I get my buttons pushed, not very often, but I'll get them pushed. But hopefully nobody ever knows that, because I think that I do a really good job of remaining calm all
you
the
do an
time.
amazing job. You do an amazing job at that.
Sometimes
Like I
not a lot
remember
of
when I
lazy
was
ones talk.
shadowing, well, when I was shadowing as I was being trained, and you guys were amazing at letting me kind of listen in on all of the different types of appointments that you guys do.
Mhm.
I That was the first thing. Even just listening to you talk to the patients, I'm like, I need to work on my dialect because it's like it is like when you slow everything down, you're very intentional about the words that you're using. It's really hard to not relax whenever you're around somebody who is
Yeah.
talking that way. So I that was, very inspiring for me because I am somebody who I am very energetic. I can sometimes talk a little too fast because I get excited about things. And I think
Mhm.
that works for some people because they need that and they feed off of that. But that's always been something about you that's really inspired me that I've tried to take and implement into how I show up for patients because it does really make a huge difference to be
Yeah.
calm and to just be present
Well,
and yeah.
thank you. That's funny. That's very flattering. Thank you. So, to my social media team, so Courtney, Caitlin, Jill, Christy, all my people, they're always like, Cassie, you got to talk faster. You got to talk faster on social media. You're talking too slow. Like, well, that's just how I talk to people because if you talk slow, number one, it comes across as you know what you're talking about. And number two, people can understand it. So I'm always like, you got to speed my stuff up. I can't learn how to talk fast. Like, I don't like that. I feel like people that talk really fast, and this is just me, but if I'm like listening to somebody trying to understand something and they're talking really fast, I'm like, are they nervous? Do they not know what they're talking about? And or are they just making stuff up? Like, I don't know. That's just me though. So I appreciate that. I do try to talk slow. So social media team, you just got to speed me up because that's just me. Unfiltered me, nice and calm. But there are times I will tell you, in my head, I am not as calm, but I take my progesterone every night. I'm well hormoned. My estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone are wonderful. So I can stay calm. Okay, so what else? So we talked about what you love about your job. What are some of the things that you've learned? Have you learned stuff by working at Modern Endocrine, or were you just this amazing before you came? Like, have we taught you anything?
I feel like I've actually learned a lot more like deeper on like the hormones. I know that like what I specialize in is a lot of the gut related stuff, but what I love the most about what you as a leader have brought to me is the ability to dabble in anything essentially that I want and to listen like if there's anything that I want to learn more of, you're like opening up the doors for me to be able to like have access to those things and to be able to just dive deeper and enhance my knowledge because I want to and I am very growth oriented and that is something that's very important to me. So like being able to, even with Summer, like learn more about like the Dutch testing, like I've done some trainings on that, but to really be able to, listen to her, talk to patients and have them listen to her kind of walk through, what those protocols look like. That's something that's been really exciting for me to get to learn more about. And then even the peptides too. I've worked with some other providers who have used some of the peptides, but we use a lot more than they do. And I'm always just really interested to learn more about those things because they can support some of our patients that are going through some of the gut related stuff. So it's been really nice for me to, if I see something, be able to make a recommendation or like cross reference it with you before I recommend something. So that way, if somebody else if they can benefit from using something or adding something in, that's been good for me to kind of enhance my confidence level there.
Yeah, I saw a patient today who was like, Sarah told me to ask you about, this peptide. And so I was like, oh, great. But no, I mean, I love people that want to learn. So I love that you love learning as much as I do. I think that it's silly to ever try to like put a cap on what anyone learns. I try to like anyone that works at Modern Endocrine, anything they want to learn, anything they want to do. Like I have somebody that works at the front desk right now and they're like, maybe I want to learn how to be an MA. I'm like, great, let's send you to MA school. Like I think it's just like really cool when people want to learn and learn more things, better themselves, because it's going to make you a better provider, right? And so anything that you want to learn, I'm always game to for you to learn and help us figure out the best way to take care of people. So I think that that's part of the reason that you fit in well at Modern Endocrine because we have our sayings and our core values, and one of them is train daily, which means like continue to learn, serve others, right? So I think that if you want to learn more things to help you be a better health coach and help our patients be better, then I'm all for it. So I'm glad that you are learning new things and that you like working here. Tell everyone, what is one interesting thing about yourself?
Interesting. That's one
I
interesting
can
thing.
think
Is
of
something
one.
that, okay, tell me something about
Tell
myself.
everyone about your bodybuilding career.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I used to, those are like in my the old days. I'm at that age now where I'm encroaching upon 30, and I think every 5 years you kind of go through a different metamorphosis. So I'm getting to that point now where I can start looking back at different versions of myself and be like, oh my God, that was me. I used to do that. But yeah, I used to be a competitor, and so I used to want to do, or I was doing women's bikini and women's figure competitions. This was probably like 4 or 5 years ago, and that's a huge part of what ties into like my internal health journey, because I worked with some coaches at the time who didn't really know, I think now, what they were doing and working with women's bodies. So unfortunately, I'm a byproduct of that, and I had to kind of bring myself back to life after wrecking my hormones and wrecking my gut just from the stress of all of that. But yeah, so I did used to compete, and it was pretty hardcore. Like that is really what I wanted to do in that season of my life. I was so focused on, I want to be an athlete. I want to get my pro card. I want to be sponsored by all these different supplement companies. And like, that's like, I was chasing after that thing. And I am so grateful in a sense that that did not happen. And there was like harsh reality, like all the stop signs, like, no, like this is going to completely wreck your health if you keep going in this direction. And so I had to, even coming out of that process, I had to unlearn and relearn a lot of different things, just in like how I was showing up every single day, how I was training, how I was eating, how to really support my hormones as a woman who is getting older and going through those hormonal changes. But I think that that does help me to relate to a lot of the women that we work with, because I tell them all the time, I'm like, I haven't gone through menopause, but at 23, my hormones were in the premenopausal range, and I had all these gut issues, and I felt like absolute crap. So, and I actually had to take 2 years off entirely from weightlifting because I was just so depleted. It was almost like my nervous system was so stressed that when I would lift weights, I wouldn't even feel better. And it was such a paradigm shift for me to be in the coaching space and to be helping people feel better, and to be in a position where you're doing all of the right things, like I'm lifting weights, I'm eating I'm like doing all of the right things, and things that used to work for my body are no longer working anymore. Like I'm gaining weight and I feel worse after I exercise. And I don't know, I was feeling overly anxious all of the time, very depressed, like all of these other things that were tied into that. And then also too, like, my identity was completely wrapped up in that. Like that was who I was. That was what I wanted. That is what I was going to do. And to have the rug completely pulled out from underneath you, in a sense, where it's like I couldn't do any of those things, like to support that identity that I had created for myself, like not being able to lift weights and not understanding why is this not working for me in this season of my life right now, was very terrifying. It's very, very terrifying. So now I'm a yogi. I've kind of gone from that end of the spectrum all the way to the opposite end of the spectrum. I still lift weights. Now I'm a lot better, so I can handle that stress. So I do still lift weights, and I believe that yes, it's very beneficial to lift weights. We need to lift our weights. We need to focus on our muscles. I'm more so focused on how I feel now more than anything. It used to all be body image focused. And that's why I think with a lot of our women, I can really relate to what's going on in their head. I think a lot of us, we're victims of diet culture. We hate ourselves. There's a very strong correlation between our relationship with food and the relationship that we have with ourselves, which is why I'm really big on trying to work on that with patients too, and help them to figure out like, what does a balanced way of eating look like for me. Everybody is different, and based on where your health is at, like we might need to make some modifications, but how do we keep those things in check too? Because that's kind of where like that, the whole mind body thing is really important for me. We can't just be all focused on one and not the other. We have to integrate and find that balance between both of them. But so
So,
that's, mhm.
so that journey that you had where you were going to be a professional bodybuilder and the rug got ripped out from under you and you had to do yoga for 2 years, that, sister, was your, that was God's work. And so that's why you are such a good provider, because that was your, my struggle with thyroid disease is like I think that you're always best serving the person you used to be, right? And
Exactly.
so that, although it wasn't great at the time, was like your calling and what needed to happen. And I will tell you guys, Sarah is a huge yogi, because she came here and I went to yoga with her and I was like, dang, I can't even sort of start to do the things that you're doing. Like, what are you? Is that a
Well,
pretzel
and
move?
what's
What is
well,
that?
and what's crazy is I always tell people that, I never thought that I was going to be the type of person that would say that if you embrace the practice will change you. But this is why for women who are overstimulated, they're addicted to caffeine, they're addicted to Adderall, they're trapped in this cycle of like performance anxiety where they feel like I have to do in order to earn, in order to prove, and all these things. That's an addiction. Like, it is an addiction. Like, we talk about this in the program, but like Joe Dispenza talks about this all the time, how like you can become addicted to norepinephrine, epinephrine, cortisol, and so many of these women that I talk to who are just busy and they don't think that they're stressed because it's normal. It's like, well, that's just because that's your new baseline. Like, you've created that for yourself because of all this perceived stress in your life. And when you start to slow down, it is very challenging because your brain is almost goes through like a withdrawal in a sense. And so there's like this cognitive dissonance where your brain is like wanting the hit of like this stress or to keep going or to keep doing, but your body is telling you something different, And that's really where I think that, again, we talk about vagus nerve stimulation and how important that is for like really being able to learn how to actually balance your nervous system as an effective tool to help you manage your stress too. But that can really help with that. So if you're feeling like you keep getting caught in that shift of not like, how do I establish this new balance and feel more grounded and feel more safe, not just in my body, but like more present in my day-to-day life, the breath work is really powerful. But I couldn't trust myself because I was one of those that was like, if I just do a breathing exercise, this box breathing exercise, like, what is this going to do for me? Like, I was one of those. And so I kept myself stuck for a while because I just was one of those people who's like, this one little thing is not going to make a big difference. So that's where I started taking the classes. And you can get this through Pilates too. Any breath work based movement can be extremely helpful. But when you put yourself in that environment, I wasn't going to be the person to walk out of the class. I didn't want to be the person to walk out of the room. So it's almost like, you're kind of retraining your brain like a dog to sit and stay. And it can be really, really uncomfortable when you first start doing it. But if you are consistent with it, kind of like the same way you'd be with any exercise regimen, the breath work will really start to change your brain. Like, it really will. And you'll start to see things differently. You'll start to feel a lot different. I remember there was one day I was on a walk and it was just like that random day where all of a sudden I just felt like I had access to my peripheral vision. And it was the wildest thing because that's when I realized like I had a problem before. And that's really when I was like, this stuff isn't woo woo. Like, I really think that there is something to like this nervous system regulation stuff. Yeah, and that's why I'm so passionate about it too. Because part of it was physical, but there was also in coming out of, that bodybuilding phase, there was a lot of life chaos that was going on at the same time. So there was a lot of physical stress, but then, I moved, I bought a house and became a landlord at a very young age. COVID happened. I ended up losing my job. And then within 3 months, it was like anything that could have gone wrong with the house that I invested in did go wrong. I had a partnership that completely failed during that process. So there was a lot of relationships there was a relationship that was lost in that process. So when I talk about the rug being ripped out from underneath me and complete just like nervous system dysregulation and chaos, it was everything. So when people come to me with some of their stories and like trying to learn like how do I actually manage the stress thing, that's why I do feel like I am the person for them. I am the person for them because I can completely relate to that, completely relate to what that feels like.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. The best I ever felt, even when I was super stressed in 2023, was when I was doing yoga. Unfortunately, I don't do yoga like I should anymore. I'm going to commit to do that as soon as this book is done. But it's true, like that breath work and that. But what I do, and I think this is important too, is I do take an exercise class about once a week where a cell phone is not allowed. So there's a place in Oklahoma City called the Sweat Society. I love it. So if you're in Oklahoma City, you should check it out. They don't allow cell phones. They have cycling, they have yoga, they have Pilates, they have all sorts of different classes. So whatever you want. I am the type of person where it's really hard for me to set in yoga still. I used to do it. I've got to get the set dog training back. But I can go to Pilates classes. But I think it's really powerful if you just disconnect yourself from something for an hour. So powerful. And I really want to get back to doing that every day because it is very true. Like I remember when I realized too, like, oh, I have an issue. And like now I'm so present and I'm so like in the moment. And it was when I was doing a lot of yoga. So, and I actually was in really great shape. So it's interesting, but this culture that we're in that like it drives you to do more and more, it's not good for your health. And I write about it in my book. So I'm going to go back to doing yoga.
Well, and it's funny that you say that about, like the boundary with phones. Like
Mhm.
when we're talking about and educating patients in the program all about your nervous system and what it is and what impacts it, overstimulation can also
Mhm.
be a perceived stress, right? So how much time are we spending on social media? How much time are we actually spending in front of these screens every single day? Like all these people in corporate, I mean, sometimes I'll be talking to patients and their teams is like ping, 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 ping. I'm like, can you turn that off? Like, how do you deal with that all day long? Like those things, we don't like, we're kind of numb to it now because we're just exposed to it. But it's like those little things, it still has an impact, right? So it's like,
For
how do we
sure.
take control of these little things that are causing our system to exist in overdrive to help us, to be able to relax more often. And I see this a lot with women. You're like, when I was doing more yoga, I actually looked better. Like I did too. And I felt like I remember I went through a period of time where I had, like, again, I had to stop everything. And that was in the midst of all of my gut issues. I was gaining weight no matter what. And it wasn't until I started eating more, I completely stopped exercising minus my yoga and walking. And I dropped like 15 pounds.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I know it was a paradigm shift for me. I was like, wait, so this is the least amount of effort that I feel like I've ever put in to looking good. And now I somehow look better than I've ever looked, even whenever I was training super hard.
Mhm.
So it kind of helped me to rewire this belief system in my brain that working harder does not always mean better. It doesn't, or better results, right? So, and especially as we get older as women, we become less resilient to stress. So it becomes more important for us to find more efficient ways. We just have to be efficient. That's really what it is. So still do the things, but you don't have to be in the gym for like 2 hours a day. You don't have to do all this cardio, right? You could go to the gym and lift weights for 30 minutes and then walk 10,000 steps, and that would be perfectly fine, or like balance it out with some of your yoga or your Pilates, things like that. It's about working smarter, not harder, and you would be surprised. And you can probably 9 times out of 10 eat more food while that process is happening. That's also a really fun process to watch women experience too, because they're like, I never thought. Yeah, it's because diet culture has taught us that it's always eat less, move more, eat less, move more. So yeah, and that's where kind of like the food freedom, I think, kind of starts to tie into things too. I always tell people a healthy metabolism is one that should be able to handle a robust amount of food. Like that is the end goal. Like if I can get you to that, like how does that sound? And people are like, that sounds amazing. I'm like, okay, let's do it. It might take us a year to get there, but if we follow this very systematic process where we fix your gut, we fix your hormones, and then we start looking at, the energy expenditure equation with calories in, calories out, your body should respond pretty quickly. Like if you feel like you're pushing a rock up a hill to try and lose weight and you're doing all of the right things, it's usually because there's something else that's going on. It's like you're not crazy, but there's just something else. But we just need to take a look beneath the hood and see what else is kind of going on because it shouldn't be that difficult. So
Yeah, I say this all the time too. Like your body will always win. You can push as hard as you want on your body, but your body is always gonna win. So yeah, so these are all the things that you get at Modern Endocrine. So if you come work with us, and some people are very like, oh, I don't know if I want to work with a health coach. Sarah is like a very special health coach. So I wanted to bring her on so you guys can hear it, like all these things and know, why she is so important to our practice. And I will tell you guys too, and I don't know if Sarah knows this, I literally interviewed like 20 health coaches before I picked Sarah. And actually, I kind of thought I knew what I wanted, but I wasn't really sure. But what I knew I needed was somebody who had lived this life and could just be very empathetic with patients. And Sarah has just like knocked it out of the park, and she's helped me create all these wonderful things. And so I want you to be very, open to working with her, because she is a huge part of our team, sometimes more than I am. Some people I tell patients this. I'm like, you need Sarah more than you need me. Trust me, go see Sarah. And then you can come back to me after Sarah fixes you and we can move forward. But until you see Sarah, like, I can back up a truck and give you everything in the world and you are not going to be better. And so it is just really important. We're putting all these pieces together at Modern Endocrine, and it's just a very, very, very important part of your health. So I'm super glad that you're on our team.
I'm so glad to be here.
So to end, I want to do two things. One thing, rapid fire. You just pick one or the other, because I think this is kind of fun. So we're going to learn a little bit about Sarah. So salty or sweet?
Sweet.
Okay. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird, 100%.
Summer or winter?
Oh God, summer.
Rain or shine?
Shine.
Walk or run?
Walk.
Oceans or mountains?
Mountains.
East Coast or West Coast?
East Coast.
Okay. I like it. I like it. Okay. And then there's 3 rounds of questions I have to ask you really quickly too, that I ask every guest. So let's do that. And then I'm going to end with one thing. So don't overthink this. Very simple, straightforward answers. Okay. So what is one food that's most beneficial and why?
Chia seeds. I love chia seeds. Fiber, good soluble fiber, great for your gut, great for constipation. That's what
Nobody said chia seeds, so that's good. Okay.
Great.
What is one thing that anyone can do for their health that's 100% free?
Drink water. Drink water.
Perfect. No one said that either.
Okay.
Last thing, what is one thing you wish you would have known about your health? We're going to say you're not that young or that old. You're young. What's one thing you wish you would have known about your health 10 years ago that you would have done differently?
That's a really good question. Not push myself so hard in the gym. Not push myself so hard. Not, pushing myself to have to like these 6-day a week, 2-hour gym sessions. Yeah, I think that's something that I would have done differently.
I completely agree. Exercise, diet culture. It's terrible. Okay, so I want to end by telling people 2 things. Number 1, I want to end by telling people the most common compliment I hear from patients about Sarah. So this is really hard because I hear a lot of compliments about Sarah, and I'm not exaggerating. I hear them all the time, which makes me happy. I think the number 1 I hear the most though is that she just really is so relatable. Like no matter what I'm going through, she can relate, and she figures out a way to help me with this program, because sometimes our programs can be very overwhelming. And so she has a way of relating to you and just being able to meet you where you are and then figure out how to get you moving. Because if you don't start moving, then nothing happens. And so I think that's one of Sarah's superpowers, is that she can relate to people, which is also why I like her and why I hired her, because I think I'm the same way. Like you have to be able to relate to people no matter what education, no matter where they are on their health journey, and you have to figure out how to get them going. And so Sarah is phenomenal about that. I have people who are like, oh, I don't want to talk to a health coach. I'm scared to talk to a health coach. I'm scared to tell the truth. I'm scared to... It doesn't matter. Like you can't say anything to shock me or her. I promise. You can try. You can't. So I think that that's one thing that I really hear a lot of compliments about, is that you're very relatable. And the last thing I want to tell people is something that I personally appreciate about you the most, which there's a couple things. I think, again, like the fact that you've gone through something like this and are just so empathetic. I truly appreciate that as a provider, also as a patient, because Sarah's helped me with my gut too. So I think her empathy is one thing that I really appreciate, but also her attitude. I don't know if you guys can tell, but she's just like the pep up, go person. And sometimes we need that, like we need that as a team. And so I have 2 things I appreciate about her empathy and just her great attitude. So I wanted to end by telling you that.
Thank you. It's always so nice. And I receive that, just so you know. I receive that, and I receive it well. I always love, I'm a words of affirmation type person. You just filled my cup, and I'm going to work 10 times harder tomorrow because things like that are just what get me going. So, but anyways, thank you. And obviously, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of the practice, to be a part of the team. I tell every patient this when they ask questions about the practice. Like and I tell them, I'm honest, I've worked with a lot of providers. I've worked with independent coaches. I've worked for some corporate companies for a while, I have never felt more aligned than I do working for you. And that is just, when you really find that niche and you get to be so excited about what you do every single day. I mean, I think even that in and of itself can impact your health. And I've noticed impacts in my personal health since coming here and transitioning from my last job into this job. And it is because of that alignment. So I just want to say thank you to you for having the courage and the audacity to start your company, because I know that that is not easy. And I know that you've encountered a lot of challenges along the way. But just as someone who's a part of your team, I'm really grateful to be here. And I know that a lot of our patients are grateful that you decided to do what you did too.
Well, thank you. And I think you guys mark our words. We're working on some really cool stuff. Modern Endocrine is going to change millions of lives, millions with an M, because Sarah and I are working on some really cool stuff, education stuff, provider education stuff. Like, we are going to make sure that the world knows that your gut is important. And so I'm like super excited and passionate about that. So I'm just excited. Sarah and I don't have an exact roadmap. We have lots of things we throw against the wall and it sticks, but we're going to figure it out. Because I was like, hey, we're going to make a gut health program. And she came down one week and we figured, she's like, this is what we're doing. And we figured it out. So we're going to do it. So I'm super excited, but we've already changed thousands of people's lives. We're going to change millions of people's lives for sure. So I'm excited. All right. Have a good week. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. It was a little different, I know, but I found that it was very beneficial, I hope, for you. And it was very heartwarming and beneficial for me. We didn't really plan this. We just kind of talked. I had a few questions, but this was mostly just kind of from our hearts, and we just went with it. We just wanted to tell you guys how passionate we are about gut health, how passionate we are about being empathetic and making sure that you feel seen and heard and validated, and then that you get better. That's really our point. That's our goal. That's why I do what I do at Modern Endocrine. Being a healthcare provider is really hard. And so if I wanted an easier job that paid me more money, I definitely wouldn't be in medicine, but I do it because I love it. And I hope that you guys can see that Sarah loves it too. And she's a huge part of my team. So again, I hope that you loved it. If you did, leave us a review and let me know if you want me to do more things like this, if you want me to interview more people on the team, some of my providers, or you want me to just do kind of these solo episodes where I talk about things that I need to know. So leave me a review and let me know wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you're following me on social media. I have some amazing content coming, super exciting stuff. My gut health webinar, I do once a month now live. It is life-changing. We have changed so many people's lives. If you are interested about your gut, you want to know about the different 6 gut health types, you want to know which one you are, then definitely follow me so you can snag a spot at the next webinar. Also, my book is coming out very soon. And so I'm super excited to bring that to you. It's going to be talking about your gut and your hormones and how they're all interconnected and related. And so that will be awesome as well. So make sure you're following me on social media. If you want to be a patient of Modern Endocrine, we now have a license in 44 states. So most of the big states, we're pending California at the time of this recording, but it should be very soon. You can check out more information on our website about becoming a patient at Modern Endocrine. We would love to see you for any of your healthcare needs. If you want to do gut health studies with us, we would also love to help you with your gut health. Have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for joining me this week. The information presented, including any materials discussed, referenced, or linked within this podcast, are for general educational purposes only, not the practice of medicine. No doctor-patient relationship is formed from you listening to this podcast or utilizing any of the information provided. I am a doctor, but I am not talking to you as your doctor. The information provided is not intended to diagnose or treat health problems, or take the place of the professional medical care provided by your doctor. If you are experiencing any health problems, including problems you believe have been touched upon in any respect within this podcast, you should consult your doctor about the problems without delay. You may ask your doctor whether he or she believes the information I have provided would be helpful to you, but you should still consult your doctor immediately and follow his or her medical advice as your treating physician. I'm just here to provide you basic knowledge about the issues we discuss so you are more aware of them and can better discuss them with your doctor. That's why we call it Back to the Basics. Join me on the next episode as we continue our journey.